Have you ever looked at a couple and thought quietly they have it all figured out, only to later realize that what looks calm on the surface can hide 1,000 unspoken thoughts? Shizuka once believed her married life was steady and peaceful. Not perfect, not cinematic, but comfortable in the way long relationships often are. She and Kevin had built years together through routine, responsibility, and shared history. From the outside, their life looked settled. They worked, they came home, they shared meals, and they moved through the days without major conflict. And for a long time, that felt like enough. But comfort, when left unattended, can quietly turn into distance. Small pressures began to appear: work deadlines, daily responsibilities, the weight of expectations neither of them openly discussed. Conversations became shorter. Questions turned into assumptions. Instead of talking things through, both chose silence, not out of anger, but out of habit. And silence, while peaceful at first, has a way of creating emotional gaps that are easy to ignore and hard to close. Kevin did not see it as a problem. From his perspective, nothing was wrong. There were no arguments, no raised voices, no obvious signs of conflict. He believed stability meant success. Shizuka, on the other hand, felt something slipping away, even if she could not fully name it. She noticed the pauses where warmth used to be, the moments where connection felt replaced by routine. Yet she, too, hesitated to speak, unsure of how to explain feelings that did not have a clear cause. Then one ordinary day, someone from their past stepped back into their present. Miyano, an old and trusted friend of both, came to visit. He had known them long before life became busy, back when laughter came easily and conversations lasted late into the night. As an outsider who cared deeply but was not emotionally entangled, Miyano noticed what they had both learned to overlook: the polite exchanges, the careful distance, the subtle lack of ease between two people who shared the same space but not the same emotional rhythm. Miyano did not confront them or assign blame. Instead, he observed, listened, and gently acknowledged the changes he felt in the room. Sometimes it takes someone from the outside to notice what those inside have slowly normalized. His presence alone stirred something uncomfortable but necessary, a quiet awareness that peace and connection are not the same thing. This moment reminds us of an important truth. Relationships do not usually fall apart because of one big mistake. More often, they drift because of many small moments left unspoken. Paying attention, checking in, and staying emotionally present are not dramatic acts, but they are essential ones. Awareness, when it comes early enough, can still open the door to understanding. His quiet presence began to shift the atmosphere in the house. He did not push conversations or force moments of honesty. Instead, he created space where words felt safer, where pauses no longer needed to be filled with routine. It was in those small, ordinary moments that change began to take shape. He noticed how Shizuka often carried her thoughts without sharing them, choosing politeness over openness. He also noticed how Kevin interpreted silence as agreement, never realizing it sometimes masked uncertainty or emotional fatigue. Neither of them was acting with harmful intent. They were simply responding to life the way many people do, by focusing on responsibilities and assuming emotional connection would take care of itself. During a calm and unremarkable conversation, Miyano gently asked a question that shifted everything. He wondered out loud when the last time was that they had spoken about how they were truly feeling, not about schedules or plans, but about themselves. The question was not accusatory. It was curious, almost reflective. And yet, it lingered in the air longer than anyone expected. For Shizuka, the question unlocked feelings she had kept neatly organized and quietly set aside. She realized she had been waiting for the right moment to speak, not noticing that the moment never arrives on its own. Kevin, listening carefully, began to understand that silence does not always mean satisfaction. Sometimes it means someone no longer knows how to begin. Miyano shared his thoughts not as advice, but as observation. He reminded them that listening is not about fixing problems, but about understanding the experience of the person in front of you. There was no pressure, no urgency, and no demand for immediate solutions. Instead, there was patience. That patience allowed Kevin to reflect without feeling defensive. For the first time, he considered that stability without emotional connection might feel empty to someone who valued closeness more deeply. Shizuka and Kevin began speaking more freely, not perfectly, but honestly. They paused, corrected themselves, and listened again. The distance between them did not disappear instantly, but it became visible. And once something is seen clearly, it can no longer be ignored. Hesitant conversations slowly found their rhythm. Kevin began to truly listen and realized that while he had provided stability, he had neglected emotional presence. He took responsibility sincerely, speaking to Shizuka with honesty rather than grand gestures. Shizuka responded with openness, feeling reassured simply by being heard. Trust returned gradually, and their home grew warmer. Both learned that strong relationships require ongoing effort, empathy, and presence. They did not erase the past, but chose to move forward more intentionally. And so it went. Laughter returned, not because problems disappeared, but because understanding was rebuilt. This story reminds us that love is not about perfection, but about effort. Small changes, sincere apologies, and open conversations can make a meaningful difference in any relationship. If this story resonated with you, take a moment to reflect on the relationships in your own life. Don't forget to like the video, share it with someone who might need this message, and subscribe to the channel for more meaningful stories that inspire understanding and connection.